All right, so for all you content creators, digital entrepreneurs out there, anyone whose whole business really hangs on getting good traffic from all over the world, we all know that deep frustration, right? You spend weeks, maybe months building press, driving this super engaged audience to an affiliate link, and then you check your dashboard. What do you see? $5, maybe 10. Or, and this is the worst, those fractional cents from the giant retailers. It feels like you're trading gold for digital pocket lint.
That feeling is exactly why we're doing this deep dive. Our mission today, looking at the source material, is to just stop chasing that high volume, low margin game. We need to pivot. We need to look at offers that actually pay you what that trust, what that traffic is really worth. We're talking business to business services, regulatory stuff.
And we are dissecting a pitch for a very specific financial service. One that, get this, it promises a flat $100 commission for every single conversion. This isn't some flash sale. This is the actual economic model. So we have to look past the big number and really dig into the service itself, the individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN. We need to figure out how a business model can possibly support that kind of payout.
And what's so fascinating here, I think, is that the commission isn't just some gimmick. It's a direct reflection of how big of a problem is being solved. Our source material basically suggests that if you have knowledge that solves a non-negotiable legal or financial problem, well, that's your ultimate leverage point in the affiliate world.
So here's the big question for you to think about as we go through this. If the value of your audience's click is suddenly not about optional shopping, but about mandatory compliance, how does that completely change your strategy and, your earning potential? Let's unpack this ITN opportunity.
Okay, so before we get blinded by that $100 figure, we have to understand the product. We're talking about the individual taxpayer identification number, the ITIN. Now, for most creators based in the US, this is probably just an abstract idea, but for anyone earning money outside the United States, this is a huge, huge hurdle.
It really is. The ITIN is it's issued by the IRS for non-US citizens who need a US tax ID, but they don't qualify for a social security number, so why is it mandatory? If you're a content creator anywhere in the world, say you're in Berlin or Buenos Aires, and you're getting paid from a US source, the IRS says you have to report that income.
And if you don't have the right tax ID on file, not a SIA, an SSN or an ITIN, what happens then? Then you get hit with the default. And the default is automatic statutory withholding. It's typically a really painful 30% rate on all your US sourced income.
30%.
30%.
Yeah.
So if you have a successful YouTube channel or you're getting big sponsorships from US companies, a third of that revenue is just gone, locked up. That is the pain point. And it's a big enough pain point to justify a high commission.
That's the key, isn't it? We're not selling like a nice to have product. We're selling relief from losing a third of your income. And the sources are very clear about what income streams are affected. YouTube ad revenue, Amazon commissions, product sales, even high tier subscriptions. So for that international creator, the ITN is what moves them from a penalty box to being, legally compliant and optimized.
Exactly. And that immediately positions a service like the one in our source, ITN.com, as a non-negotiable solution. It's the cost of doing business globally. The target audience isn't thinking about optional buys. They're actively struggling with U.S. tax bureaucracy with the very real threat of losing a huge chunk of their money.
So who are we targeting here? I mean, who should you be thinking about? It's anyone with an international audience who talks about online business, side hustles, that kind of thing. We're talking massive groups of people, international bloggers, YouTubers, software devs, anyone actively struggling with those W-8 bid forms and realizing they need to go through the whole W-7 application process for an ITIN.
And we have to mention the credibility factor. The source material makes a point of this. ITIN.com is described as a streamlined professional solution that's been around for 7 years. In the compliance world, that kind of stability and trust is, it's everything. That longevity tells us two things. First, the demand isn't some trend, it's a constant. And second, the service provider actually handles the complex stuff reliably, which justifies their fee, which in turn supports our high commission.
Right. And that stable, complex, mandatory foundation, that brings us to the money. So let's move from the why to the how. This flat $100 commission. Wait a minute. If they're a legit 7-year-old company, they aren't just losing money. How can they possibly afford to pay out $100 for every single lead?
That is exactly the right question to ask. We have to look at the numbers. If a typical ITIN service charges, let's say, somewhere between $300 and $500 for the full process, and that includes managing all the notarization, certifying documents, dealing with the IRS, then a $100 commission is what, 20 to 33% of their revenue? 20
to 33%. I mean, that's a huge cut compared to the usual 3 to 5% in retail.
It is, but it tells you everything about their customer acquisition strategy. Their CAC. Look, the ITIN process is high friction for the customer, right? Yeah. But it's also high friction for the company to find that customer. They need very specific leads, people who are already educated on the problem and ready to pay for a complex service.
So the $100 is really a payment for trust, for authority. They're paying the affiliate. They're paying you to do the heavy lifting, the education and the qualification part. Instead of spending thousands on, I don't know, broad Google ads that bring in a bunch of confused people, they're paying us to deliver a pre-vetted customer who gets how serious this is.
Precisely. You are delivering a solution to a very specific, very high-intent problem. That problem is, I am losing 30% of my YouTube money. How do I fix it? A lead like that is incredibly valuable. The commission structure just acknowledges that reality. It completely flips the script. We stop caring about the raw quantity of clicks and focus entirely on the quality and the strategic placement of the link.
So this moves us away from that whole unsustainable model of chasing pennies. We're now focusing on what you could call high-friction pain points that are solved by high-commission offers. The leverage shifts dramatically to the creator.
And we have to keep reinforcing that this demand isn't going anywhere. As long as U.S. tax law exists and the global creator economy keeps growing, the need for ITIN compliance services will remain, as the source says, massive, consistent, and global. It's an evergreen market. It's not going to dip because of a season or a social media trend.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second. If this is a 7-year-old gold mine, like the material claims, wouldn't it be saturated by now? Couldn't, like, the big accounting firms just automate this and crush the little guys, forcing commissions down?
That's a critical question. And while, sure, large firms could try to get in, the complexity of the ITIN application, especially the need for certified documents. I mean, you often have to mail original documents or go see a certified acceptance agent in person. That means full automation is really, really hard for the IRS to accept. That bureaucratic wall is actually a high barrier to entry. It protects these specialized providers.
So the high commission is protected by the bureaucracy itself, by the complexity of the law and the paperwork. That actually makes a lot of sense.
It is. The affiliate opportunity isn't just about selling a link. It's selling a streamlined path through a very confusing bureaucratic maze. And the creators who really succeed are the ones who can speak to that specific confusion authentically.
Okay, so the economics are solid, the demand is there, and the bureaucracy protects the pricing. Now, let's translate this into a real, reliable income stream. What does this $100 flat fee actually mean for your strategy?
The first thing to get is that earning a $100 commission means you've built a ton of trust. You're not just, dropping a link in a YouTube description and hoping for the best. You're acting as a verified expert on a pretty serious legal and financial topic. So the income is reliable, yeah, but it's not effortless.
That is such a crucial distinction. We can't downplay the effort involved. I mean, our sources do this simple math. Get just 10 conversions a month, and that's an extra $1,000 in passive income, which is powerful. But getting 10 conversions for a niche service like this, that requires a real strategy.
Absolutely. You have to move past just general traffic. The strategy here is all about segmenting your audience and creating authority content. Think about creating a big pillar piece of content, something with a super specific title like The Ultimate Guide to Avoiding 30% U.S. Tax Withholding for International Creators.
Right. You're targeting a search term from someone who is already in financial pain. You're not creating the need, you're solving the problem at the exact moment they're feeling it most acutely.
Exactly. You optimize for those international tax search terms. You place the link strategically, not just at the end, but inside a detailed walkthrough. You explain the complex W-7 form. You compare the cost of doing it yourself versus using a professional service. The income is earned through that strategic placement, inside content that's already built to establish your authority.
It's all about surgical precision, not just volume. The source material mentions guys like Miles Dunphy, and I think that's a good example. We should look at that not as a name to copy, but as a case study in building SEO and authority around tax compliance.
Right. Those creators are successful because they are connecting their non-US audience with what they see as a life-changing service. audience. They found that perfect spot where a mandatory compliance rule meets a trusted solution. It makes their audience's online business both compliant and profitable. The value isn't the $100 to the affiliate, it's the thousands of dollars in saved income for the customer.
And that's the strategic upgrade right there. You stop thinking of your side hustle as just selling gadgets or consumer goods, and you start seeing yourself as a critical part of your audience's actual business infrastructure. You're facilitating global financial compliance. That's a whole different level.
And this strategy just proves that real affiliate marketing success today isn't about chasing the lowest price for the biggest audience. It's about finding and serving the highest pain point for a very specific, often geographically defined audience. Regulatory problems are universal pain points, and they translate directly into sustainable high-value income.
So, to wrap this all up, the key takeaway is pretty clear. High-value affiliate success comes from finding these essential services, like the ITIN, where the solution solves a mandatory, non-negotiable legal problem for a specific group of people, like non-US digital creators. The high commission is just a natural result of the high barrier to entry and the high value of the fix.
And this brings up a really important question. If this whole compliance space has been stable and growing for 7 years and is still being called a goldmine, that means the mainstream affiliate world has been completely overlooking it. They're all still focused on consumer retail.
So the provocative thought we want to leave you with is this. The ITIN is just one case study in what you might call compliance arbitrage. How many other essential high-demand services that solve mandatory problems are out there? Maybe in specialized fields like GDPR compliance tools for US creators with EU audiences, or international trademark registration, things that are currently being overlooked.
The lesson is crystal clear. When you use your authority to solve a big mandatory problem for a global audience, the compensation is structurally designed to give you a much better return.
Go explore the idea of mandatory compliance services. That could be your next high-value niche. Your audience already has these pain points. Your job is to find the solution they absolutely must have. We'll see you on the next deep dive.